Hey, what's up everyone? This is Music Tech Help Guy, and welcome to part 33 of my ultimate guide to Logic Pro. In this video, I'm going to show you how to bounce your final mix and prep your final mix for bouncing. So the term bounce has been around for decades. It's actually a term that comes from the tape recording world, where you would take multiple channels on a tape reel and bounce them down to one channel on another tape machine, or two channels if you're working in stereo. But back in the 50s and 60s, many recordings were made on 1, 2, or 4 channel tape machines because 8, 16, and 24 channel tape machines were pretty uncommon back then. So if you needed more channels than what your tape machine supported, you'd have to bounce your tracks over to another tape machine. That terminology is now used in Logic and other DAWs as your final export of your song. So you're taking everything in your mix and you're bouncing out a final wave file that you can use for sharing and distribution. But before we get into the tutorial, I want to quickly tell you about the sponsor of this video, Boombox. If you're a musician, songwriter, or producer, and you work with collaborators on a regular basis, you've got to check out Boombox.io. Boombox is an incredible new service that allows you to upload your tracks and then invite collaborators to view, download, and leave timestamped feedback on your tracks. Or if you're a mixing engineer like me, you can give your mix clients viewer access, which means that they can listen to and comment on the files, but they cannot download, edit, or delete the files. Once the client is happy with my mix and they've paid the final balance, I change their access to editor and they now have access to download their track. This is an incredibly helpful safety for me when working with my mixing and production clients. Boombox.io is absolutely free to get started, so sign up for an account today and get 4 gigabytes of free storage. Okay, so I have a full song here that I've written, recorded, edited. It's fully mixed and mastered. So essentially, this is a finished product. The final step in production would be to bounce the track as a WAV file to share it on SoundCloud, listen on your phone, or submit for distribution to streaming services. Or maybe you're burning this to disk to release on CD. It's pretty uncommon nowadays, but it does still happen. So because this is the final product, you want to make sure that you bounce the song correctly. So before we bounce, we need to determine the bounce range of the song. For example, you don't want your song to start abruptly right at bar 1, and you also don't want a big long gap of silence before or after your song. So let's talk about that part first. Now, when you press Command B, this will open up your bounce dialog, and one of the things you'll see here is a start and end point for the bounce. This is the bounce range. Now, one way to do this is to simply set your song start point, which is right here. You can drag on this and drag back, drag forward. You can see you can actually reveal like a 0 bar and even some negative bars. So if you started your song right at bar 1, which I didn't, I started it at bar 2, you could drag back the song start point here and just give yourself a little bit of lead time before bar 1. Unfortunately, you can't pull this ahead of bar 1. Like I couldn't put this here, for example, just a split second before the song starts. And then at the end, you can do the same thing. So let's go to the end here. You'll see there's a song end marker here, a project end marker. You can drag that around. And that's one way to set your bounce range. But I find a much better method is to use the locators and the cycle range. So what I do is I press Command A, and then I press Command U, and that'll set the cycle range around the selection. Then I go to the beginning, and with snap mode turned off, I'll pull the cycle range just a split second before the song starts, like maybe 1 beat or even a half of a beat, you know, like a 8th note or 16th note, just enough so there's just like a little quarter or half second buffer before the song starts. The reason why I do this is in a lot of audio systems, especially Bluetooth systems and car stereos, there'll be a bit of a buffer when you start the song. So if you just start the song right at bar 1, like right where the first note comes in, often what'll happen is that buffer will cut off that first note. And so in order to get around that, I like to add just a little bit of silence before the song starts. Again, just like a half second of silence. Nothing that's going to really be noticeable. Now, when we get to the end, I have a bit of a unscientific way of doing this, but I've been doing this for 17 years and it's always worked out well for me. What I do is I listen to the end of my song and then I determine where the best point for the end of the song or the end of the track is, the end of the actual audio file.
I told you that we're running out of time. We're running out of time.
1, 2, 3. So what did I do there? Well, what I like to do is listen to the end of the song. I listen to the point where the signal or the sound is basically inaudible. The reverb tail is still there, but it's not very noticeable. And then I just count to 3 and press stop. And that's where I end my song. So what I'll do is I'll bring my cycle range back in and I'll set the cycle range right around that point. So that's where the actual audio file will end. Now, in addition to ending the file there, I also want to fade out any reverb tails and any other background noise that might still be there. Again, most of these things are going to be inaudible, but I just want to make sure that the actual signal fades down to nothing by the end of the audio file. So what I'll do here is I will add the master fader to the tracks area, or the master VCA. So remember, you can just right click on this or control click and select create track, or you can just press Command T. This will add the master fader or the master VCA into your tracks area. I'll pull this up to the top. And then what I do is I hit A to show my automation. And then what I do is I create a fade that ends right at the end of that cycle range. And I'm going to listen to this one more time and find a good spot to start this fade. This is not like a song fade out, like a slow fade out, like an intentional fade out. This is just fading out any sort of reverb tail or any floor noise that might be in the recording.
Of time.
And there we go. So it's pretty standard to have like 2 or 3 seconds of buffer at the end of a song. And the reason why you do this is to make sure that there's a bit of a gap between the end of your song and the start of the next song that's going to play. So to bounce, you can do this a couple different ways. You can actually click on this little BNC button on the stereo out, or you can just press Command B. And now what you'll see is that the start and end range for the bounce matches the cycle range. On the upper left here, you have the destination. These are your different types of files that you can bounce. So PCM stands for pulse code modulation. PCM type files are your uncompressed audio files, things like AIFF, WAV, and CAF files. Typically, I just use WAV files because these are the most widely used and most standard type of uncompressed audio file. You can select your resolution, which is the bit depth, and you can also select your sample rate here. Now, this song was recorded at 44.1 with a bit depth of 24. Typically, most distribution companies prefer to have a bit depth of 16-bit and a sample rate of 44.1, regardless of what you recorded your song at. So even if you used a really high sample rate for recording, you're still going to have to down convert at the bounce for distribution. Now, there are some distribution services out there that will take 24-bit files. There are some that'll take 48 as well. So if you want sort of like a HD version of your bounce, you can, just bounce 2 versions, bounce a 24-bit version and then bounce a 16-bit version. But you're not really going to hear much of a difference between 16-bit 44.1 and 24-bit 48, at least not on the final bounce. The file type is split and interleaved. Split means that it separates the left and right channels into 2 separate audio files. Interleaved means that the left and right channels are combined together in a single audio file. For bouncing a final mix, interleaved is really the only thing you want to use here. And then this brings us to dithering. Dithering is a type of low-level noise, like basically imperceptible noise that helps preserve minute details in your mix when converting from higher bit depths down to lower bit depths. I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's not quite as important as it may sound, But anytime you go from a higher bit depth, like going from 24-bit down to 16-bit, you should turn on dithering. I typically just use this first dithering mode here. Now, if you don't use dithering, are you ruining your bounce? No. No one has ever ruined a mix by not dithering. And I could honestly do an entire video on what dithering is, but in short, I like to think of dithering kind of like film grain. If you add a little bit of film grain to digital video, this can help bring out the details. Likewise, adding dithering can help bring out the details and preserve the details when you're down converting from a higher bit depth to a lower bit depth. So that's enough about dithering. Just use it when you go from 24-bit down to 16-bit. If you're bouncing a 24-bit mix and you record it at 24-bit, you can leave this off. Now, there are some other destinations over here. You can bounce an MP3 file if you like. You can bounce an M4A file. You can even burn directly to CD or DVD. The only one of these destinations I will sometimes use is MP3. Sometimes I'll also bounce an MP3 as well as a PCM file if I'm trying to send the file over email. You know, I'll use a lower bit rate here, something like 192 or 160, just as like a quick demo to send to someone. But anything you're going to be submitting for distribution, you're going to want to use a PCM WAV file or AIFF file. We already talked about the bounce range. So next up, you have real-time and offline bounce modes. Offline bounce means that Logic is going to bounce the entire project without actually playing the project in real time. The only time you want to use a real-time bounce is if you are using real-time mixing hardware in your mix and everything is routed up and you're using it live, like you're using it in real time. You haven't printed the effect back into Logic, or if you're using hardware synthesizers and you're using like an external MIDI track to send the MIDI data out to the synthesizer. So unless you're in one of those two situations, an offline bounce is what you're going to want to do. You can choose to include audio tail and tempo information. For this type of project, I'm going to turn these off. And then lastly, there's a normalize menu where you can add overload protection. What this does is if your mix is clipping, it'll actually bring the level of the mix down below clipping level. And if you turn this on, it's also going to pull up the peak volume of your track up to just below peaking or just below clipping. Because I already sort of prepped my track for bouncing on the stereo output, just like I showed you in the previous video, you do not need to use this normalize feature. Okay, so I've got my settings the way I want them. I'll just click OK. This will bring up your bounce dialog. It's just asking you where you want to save your bounce. If you used a Logic project folder, this will automatically save this in the bounces folder inside of your Logic folder. But if you use the project package, you're going to have to find another spot to put your bounces. So I'll just say running out of time, bounce V1. And it's going to bounce out my song. And as you can see, it's not playing my song in real time. So typically an offline bounce is going to be much faster than a real-time bounce. Okay, so after waiting a bit off screen, I can go into my bounces folder, and here is my bounced WAV file. And I'm just going to press spacebar and give this a listen and make sure that it's playing okay.
You've got it all, but you can't break free. Just sleep right there in your frozen state. Just stay right here with me when we tear down all these walls. Just stay right.
And then let's check the ending as well.
We're running out of time.
And there you go. You could hear that 2 or 3 seconds of buffer at the end of the bounce. So that's how you can bounce your final mix in Logic Pro. In the next video, we're going to talk about exporting tracks. Like if you want to export multiple tracks or stems, maybe you want to take your project in a multi-track format and maybe bring it over to a mix engineer or bring it over to a collaborator or a co-producer, and maybe they're working in a different DAW. That's what I'm going to show you how to do in the next video. And then in the video after that, we're going to wrap up the Logic Pro Essentials portion of this series. And I'm going to do a quick overview of how to use Logic Remote for recording, mixing, and just a really cool way of controlling Logic with any iOS device, like an iPhone or an iPad. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. As always, thank you so much for the support, and thanks for watching.